Well, hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Motherhood Show. It's brought to you by Cherie's Choice. Of course, I am your host, Cherie Bergeron, the founder and CEO of Cherie's Choice, and I'm just so glad you could be here with us today. I started these recordings recently, and each week we explore challenges of ambitious women who are facing infertility and who are seeking to navigate their path to motherhood on their own terms. And so, as part of that, I am bringing back a very special guest from one of our recent podcasts, which was called Unwrapping New Possibilities for Motherhood. And I am really thrilled to have Arsiak Vartenian back with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back and to have, like we've said before, open and honest conversations.
Absolutely. And we touched upon this topic briefly, but was so much to get into. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to share a little bit of information about you if I can. Arsiak is a surrogacy and IVF coach, and she's the media creator for behind the talk show Smart is the New Sexy, which I love that title.
Thank you.
Arsiak speaks candidly about her struggles with infertility, including multiple miscarriages, and her use of a surrogate to create her beautiful daughter, Valentina. And now she coaches and guides women who want to pursue surrogacy and build their families. So, we have been communicating for maybe a number of months since last year sometime, but candidly, you strike me as like kind of a dynamo. I mean, a woman who does so many things. It's so impressive. So, in addition to the talk show, you're a real estate broker, a coach for IVF and surrogacy, and a dedicated mother to your 4-year-old daughter. When did you broaden your focus to helping women on their motherhood journeys?
Well, thank you for that introduction, Cherie. And what I did prior to launching Smart as the New Sexy was I was a real estate broker for almost 20 plus years. I bought and sold real estate in Chicago and investments. Now my husband and I have our own investments that we've done. And I let my license go when my daughter was born because I figured I needed to focus on motherhood. But prior to that, let me backtrack. I started Smart as the New Sexy. So while I was doing real estate, I knew that I was working with I was working with more men than women. And ideally, because of the field that I was in, I was working with a lot of developers. So there was just a lot of developers that it's male dominated. And I
Mm.
started to think that I felt like there was something still missing because I always enjoyed when a woman came and came to me and was looking for a home or a condo that I could help her because it was just felt so empowering for a woman to do this on her own.
Mhm.
And so I kind of felt that I was missing something in real estate. Like it wasn't doing for me what I wanted to do. So I created a podcast, an online podcast called Smart is the New Sexy, where I went around Chicago looking for women that are doing amazing things and that are also giving back to their community, that are empowering and inspiring other women that have had some sort of a battle scar, like a triumph, because everybody loves a come up. Everybody loves a come up. And so I looked for those particular stories in women where they had niches, whether it was in PR or whether it was a woman that was creating beer or crafting it. And it was just all across the board. Once I started to explore my journey with surrogacy, I put the brakes on a lot of things. So as Smart as the New Sexy started to get started to finally get going and get noticed more and more, I actually made a decision to put a stop to it. And the reason being was to me, it was because I needed to focus on motherhood. Because behind the scenes, as I was doing Smart as the New Sexy, when I look back at my videos, it was wild to me because I remember a lot of those videos where I was going through IVF, where I had
Mm.
just had a miscarriage and I had to already be on camera because
Yeah.
you know how it is.
Have your
Work
game
doesn't stop.
face and yeah, right.
Yes. And so I knew once we decided that we were pregnant and we were going to have Valentina, and this was a for sure thing, I put a stop on it and I said, I really need to focus on motherhood. This is something that I need to do. So over the last 4 years, while I was being a mom and moving state to state, we moved like 5 times to 3 different states while Valentina was 5 months old. Between by the time Valentina was a year and a half, we had already moved into like 4 different homes, moved state to state because we were trying to get our house finished that was under construction in Miami. So that in itself was stressful. So I was focused on my daughter. I was focused on motherhood. I was focused on getting our home so we can move into it and actually live in a home and not out of boxes. I started to feel, what can I do to be able to give back? What is it that I can do? How could I take smart as the new sexy or do something that I've already done with women, but take it to another level now? And when I started to research and do, think about IVF and surrogacy, I'm like, there's not a lot of people talking about it. And we're only talking about it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Really, if you
Yeah.
think about it, we're only talking about it. If I came to you, let's say, and we're having a one-on-one conversation over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and oh yes, I went through that too. And that was a lot of the things that I started to notice. So that's why I went ahead and said, you know what? I want to build a community of emotional support, a community where I could bring so many other women together from not just here in the United States, but even globally. And let's talk about it because IVF is, like I said, it doesn't discriminate. Women
Right.
from all across the world are going through this, but culturally, we're not supposed to talk about it because
Right.
in a lot of different cultures, like my culture, you're supposed to have babies. It's easy. Nobody talks about it. What are you talking about? So when I started going through it, it was foreign to my family and it was foreign to my culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the things that you're hitting upon is this idea we have this fairy tale that you can have it all, and women believe that they should be able to move and go through things like infertility and hold down a full-time job and all of these things. And sometimes, you just can't make all of those things happen. Oh, and then be a great mother at the same time or whatever, all of those things. And so I really kind of applaud you for prioritizing and knowing what was important, because a lot of women try to meet this impossible standard and feel deeply dissatisfied and sort of like they're failing by trying to do it all, because we believed that myth that you can have it all. So I appreciate that so much. So I know you've been really open about your struggles with pregnancy. Can you share a bit about when you decided to pursue motherhood? And take us back a little bit and the challenges that you experienced in those early years.
Um, well, I was married prior to my husband. I got married really young. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about having a family. All I was thinking about was my career. I was in real estate. I was young. I was hungry. I just wanted to work and make something prior to having kids. And I remember I got pregnant and then I was 12 weeks and I had lost the baby. And at that time, I don't really think anything of it because I was in my 20s. It was devastating, but I didn't think, oh, because my mom had told me, women have trouble getting pregnant. It's going to happen. It's not, it's common. Not that I want to say it's okay, but it's common.
Sure, one in
So,
four pregnancies,
yeah,
don't end up with a live child. So you're absolutely right.
yeah. So at the time, I didn't think really much of it. It just really put me down. But then I knew I was like, I was already on my way out of that marriage and I wanted a sign from God. And I saw this as a sign from God that this was not meant to be. This isn't the person I'm supposed to be with. I'm a very spiritual and religious person. I'm a little bit of both. I'm like salt and pepper. And I have a lot of spirituality and I have religion. So that right there in itself just made me feel like, okay, this isn't the person I'm supposed to be with. Let's move on. it is what it is. So a couple of years later, I ended up, after getting divorced, I met my now husband and we were dating and hanging out. And I was in my 30s at this point. And I was like, you know what? I could see this person as being the father of my kids. Not that I had ever thought that with my first husband. So this was a whole new experience for me. And so I honestly, I didn't think much of it again. I was like, you know what? We're together. We're not married, but we're living together now. So we're in our 30s. We're both, working. He's successful. I'm, successful. So if things happen, it's okay if it happens. So I started the first time I got pregnant, I had a miscarriage. I was like 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. So I was like, okay, I didn't think much of it, but it was still like devastating. It was like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. And then as I started to get more and more serious with my husband and we got engaged and now we're getting married, things started to progress from there. And I kept having miscarriages. And then I would get pregnant and it would be like 3 months, 2 months. I think with him, I made it up to 3 months and then it stopped. It was like 11 and a half weeks. So almost 12 weeks, almost at that 12. So that's when I really started to explore, why isn't this happening for me? What is my body doing to me? And I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. I was older. I was in my mid 30s. So let me just give you some context here. I was like 35, I was 37, 38, 39. Prior to that, I'm just going to take one step back. Prior to that, I remember going to my OBGYN and telling her, listen, there's a lot going on with me. And right before my period, like a week or so before my period, I feel so off. I feel like I'm a crazy person. I have really bad anxiety. I have depression. I don't know what's wrong. And I have no reason to have anxiety or depression. I work out, I eat healthy. I have a good life. Like, I don't have a reason to have this. And she wanted to put me on antidepressants. Little did I know I was already going through perimenopause. Now that I think back, so
Mm.
I don't know if that was an issue there, right? As I was trying to get pregnant, because there was no, and I'm not saying because there's women now in their 40s getting pregnant, some getting pregnant naturally and going to full term, or doing IVF and having a baby. So for me, I've always had issues with my body ever since I was like 12, 13 years old. When I first got my period, I remember going to the doctor with my mom and that doctor telling my mom that I was going to have problems getting pregnant.
So, did you ever have a diagnosis of what the
Nothing.
issue?
No. They just said that my body rejects. There's something going on with my body that
Mm.
it rejects. Because every time I would get pregnant, I would feel like I had the flu. Literally, I knew by the
Oh.
time I was like 4 weeks, like 5 weeks about it, that I'm pregnant. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. And by the sixth week, it was like fever. I couldn't get out of bed,
It's like a
nausea.
immune reaction, immune system
Yes,
reaction
it
of
was
some
like an
kind.
immune system reaction. So we didn't know. So we started doing testing. I did my thyroid, I did all those things, hormones, everything came back normal.
Wow.
So at that point, when I want to say 38, 39, was my doctor, my OBGYN, the same woman that I had been going to since I was like 21 years old, said to me, you need to go see an IVF specialist. And I was like, okay. So she's like, this is common. You're older and you've been trying to get pregnant and it's just not happening. And you've come in here and we've had a DNC done and we've done this because usually when I would get pregnant, I couldn't pass
Mm.
the I couldn't miss when I would miscarry, I couldn't pass. So there was a couple of times where I did have to have a DNC, or it was the medication that they give you that you just kind of able to get everything out depending on how far the pregnancy was. So there was a couple of times where I did get pregnant where we were able, and it was like I had subchronic hematoma, which was bleeding in the uterus. Not saying that the baby couldn't survive, but it was a very high risk pregnancy again. So they would monitor me. And again, I would miscarry. So it was like this happened, I want to say at least two times that I can remember where I was diagnosed with subchronic hematoma in the uterus,
Wow.
where
So, well, so then you, I mean, and each one of those times, I mean, we're speaking about it kind of in this linear progression, but each time I'm sure was totally heartbreaking to be going through that. I mean, just devastating because as you got into your 30s, you were wanting this more and more, and you would get your hopes up, and maybe it went longer than the time before, and you're thinking maybe this is it, maybe this is the time, and yet then, to be given that news and that loss. So we'll get
yeah.
into that more. I really want to get into that more. But and so then you went into IVF. Then you decided to go the IVF route. And what happened then?
So I did IVF. So just from talking to a couple of other friends that did IVF, they're like, harvest as many healthy embryos as you possibly can. And my advice to you that if you're going to go through IVF, do genetic testing and everything because you don't want to have that loss. And that was me. I was like, what is going to give me the best possible chance? Like, I know people have not done genetic testing and they've gotten pregnant. Just to preface it, that just, I know that's not, the end to be all, but I, where I was at in my life, for me personally, going through IVF, I wanted to harvest as many embryos as I possibly could harvest because now at this point I'm 40 and I'm starting IVF,
Are we
which
talking
you're
eggs or embryos? We're talking
both.
harvesting egg. Okay.
No, embryos, because now I'm
Yeah.
married. Now we're like getting
Yeah.
serious about pregnancy. So
Yeah.
now we're married. We're trying to harvest as many embryos as
Yeah.
possible. So I went through my first round of IVF, nothing. Okay, fine. None of my embryos made it. Nothing even went it to, to be able to get genetic testing. By day 5, it was like done. By the second round of IVF, I had one embryo. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, so let me do this one embryo. That made it, the genetic testing, it was healthy. I knew the sex, I knew everything. Let me harvest that and let me go through my third round of IVF. Just because I know one and done, it could, yes, it could possibly mean it. And at the same time, when I was going through IVF, because the way my doctor did it is he would make you wait like a month or two before. He wouldn't give you back to back treatments. I know some doctors do that. My doctor was not a fan of that. He'd say 3 to 4 rounds at most a year. I would recommend you going through IVF. He goes,
Right.
I do not recommend more than that because the body just, it needs rest. Because
Right.
also your body's stressed when you're going through IVF.
Right.
So you can't create much of anything when your body's under all that stress.
Right.
So went through that, went through 4 rounds of IVF in 1 year. I ended up with 4 embryos and 2 pregnancies that I lost. That's it. It was done. So at that point, my IVF doctor and my OBGYN were like, listen, your body is just not carrying. Why don't you look at surrogacy? You are in your 40s, you want a baby. Let's just find someone that's had a chance and brought a baby to term. Are you open to that? I was like, I've only known one person to do it. I don't know anything about it because, back then celebrities weren't really talking about it. Now
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
like a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided, okay, my husband and I decided, let's explore this option and let's see where this takes us. And let's see with the few embryos that we have at least, because as you know, just because you have a handful of embryos does not mean you're going to have a handful of pregnancies from them. You might be lucky to have two, even though they're genetically tested, everything. You have this perfect little embryo, does not mean that it's going to, be perfect because hence my daughter, the first embryo they implanted was healthier than the one that, that was implanted that produced her pregnancy, because that's how they go. They grade it. They look at your,
Mhm.
what is the healthiest embryo? Let's implant that one first, to
Well,
give the best chance.
right. Well, so okay, so you decide to explore or surrogacy, and how did you even go about that? What is the process for that? I've never gone through it myself, so I'm thinking, okay, great, they introduced this, but then now what? What do you
So
do?
what they do, and not to be funny about it, is you go to your IVF clinic and they hand you a piece of paper, like a piece of paper with all the agencies. There's about 20
Mm,
agencies. So you have to go in and do the interview and just kind of see and email and talk. And I don't even know. There was not much information about it back then. There's a lot of information about it now. I feel like over the last 5 years, surrogacy has become more and more like normal. But back then, when I was trying to do it, which was in 2018, it wasn't really much, or 2019, there wasn't really much, information about it. There wasn't really any, 2018, because when we
right.
did our first surrogate, it was finally in 2019, and then she got pregnant, but in 2020 she was pregnant, and then she lost our son. She was pregnant 6 months with our son because we decided to implant the male embryo because he was one of the first ones to come in, and she had lost the baby at 6 months. She was 24 weeks pregnant, and or yeah, 24 weeks, or yeah, 24, 23 weeks. And it was wild. That was wild
I,
because it
I
was during
mean,
COVID too.
so well, let's. I will really want to get into that because I had sort of a late stage around that same time, kind of um, disruption in my pregnancy. But what do you do? How, what kind of things would you ask a surrogacy agency? I'm just curious, like what kind of criteria would you be going through to decide between one and another? Like how, what differentiates them? What should somebody be asking about?
So a few of the things I would definitely ask is, what is your process? How many people do you have handling this process? So when you first start with an agency, there's a coordinator. You're going to call the agency. They're going to coordinate with you to talk to um, the person, which is the actual coordinator. You call, you set up an appointment. The coordinator gets on the phone with you. Hi, how are you? How's everything? What are you looking for? What is this? What is that? So basically, we're looking for a surrogate. We're looking to implant this. Okay, let's get on the phone. Next conversation will be, you have to talk to our matchmaker. So you end up getting on the phone with the matchmaker. She starts to explore, why are you doing this? What are you looking for? What region are you looking for? What's the race? What's the culture? What's the religion? All these things. Could she be this? Could she be that? Could she be married? Could she be divorced? Does she, and the good agencies will make sure that that surrogate has had her own children.
Mm,
That is very important. She has had at least one or two births, if not more, of her own children.
okay.
So
So
that
that's
is
one of the
one,
things. Yeah.
yes, one of the things that I would say that, please, like, I know a lot of people have said, oh, we're going through Facebook groups, we're doing this. Just find a reputable agency and make sure that price is not a factor, like cost is not a factor when you're looking for that agency, because that was my first mistake.
Mhm. Meaning, choosing one that's lower cost than another.
Because lower doesn't always mean better.
Right, right. I mean, what other, how do you decide what is a reputable agency?
Someone that's been around, someone that
Okay.
has like a team of people, you have to see how long they've been around. How
Okay.
many years have they been doing this? Who is their founder? What has the founder done? How's the founder connected, or the owner of the agency? How are they connected to, the whole IVF world? And most of the founders, most, not all, but most of the founders have gone through it themselves,
Yeah.
have gone
So I
through
mean,
IVF.
so you're having to, so now you're having to figure out, is this agency good? And then you're having to evaluate, is this surrogate the right kind of person and stuff. So it's very complex to be
Yeah.
going through all this. And I'm sure that you were feeling a sense of urgency as well, but that's kind of a time consuming process. So, and then of course the cost for it. And as you say, so the first surrogate, she lost the baby, and was there any known cause for why, or was that also something that was kind of mysterious?
No, it wasn't, because we did an autopsy, and in the ultrasound it showed it was the umbilical cord. He had suffocated from the umbilical cord. Now, how does that happen? I don't know. I do truly do believe that going back now, or when we chose the surrogate for Valentina, it taught me a lot. That's why I was very picky with who I chose as a surrogate. And that has to be the number one priority. I actually talk to women now from our agency that we have worked with to have Valentina, and I let them know that whatever your needs and wants are, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, just looking at this pattern over the years, and you've talked about your faith, how did this constant disappointment kind of impact your faith? I mean,
I
what?
think that obviously you question things, right? You always do. You're like, why me, God? Why am I not getting what why am I not getting what I'm praying for? Why wouldn't you get, what have I done? What is, but then again, it's the faith and hope, because there was always little signs, that it would be like you would speak it out into the universe. I would speak it out into the universe, and there was always like a little sign that just gave me that hope to keep going. And I'm not one to give up on anything in life. I
Yeah.
always fight for whatever I want, whatever it is that I want, whether it's career, whether it's family, whether it's whatever it might be. I've never been the type of person to give up. Or I may lay down and cry for a minute, but then I'm like, girl, you better get your butt up and get moving again, because you're not going to get anywhere by laying in this bed, And that's what I would always tell myself. I'd be like, girl, get up, let's go, let's get moving. What would your mom do? Because I grew up with a really strong mom too.
Mm.
Um,
So it sounds
but
like
then
you really had this sense of purpose that you were meant to be a mother. And as you had these disappointments, it just kind of steeled your resolve maybe all the more. Like, I know we're very alike in that way, that, I hit an obstacle and I just go, all right, well, that means I need to try harder. Or, I don't go, oh, okay, I guess it's a no. I go, screw that. It's not a no. I just, I need to do something else. But so, I mean, you had that same kind of resolve, it seems.
yeah, I mean, I've always had like people that have met me, they'd always say, your tenacity, I wish I had it, and it's not, I just think it just takes a lot. I grew up with immigrant parents that always, fought and struggled for what they got and what they have now and what they've built in their life. And I grew up with a lot of strong women in my family. Like my aunts, they're my best friends. My mom's my best friend. My cousins are my best friends. So I grew up with a lot of family like strength. And to me, that's really important. And I had a lot of that around me. I didn't do this on my own. I had a lot of that around me. My family, they rallied around me always. Don't worry about it, Arsiak. It's going to happen. It's just not, the timing is not right. And I do a lot of self-reflection, and now I understand why I'm here doing this, and now why it took so long for me to have my daughter. And it's just now the answers have come.
Yeah,
But prior
they
to
always
going,
come. They
Yeah,
always
they always
come
come
sort of.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
later,
right.
later, everything. When you're just sitting there, you might be just, drinking your cup of coffee, and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, now I understand why all of this, has happened the way that it is. And it's so much more beautiful than what I had anticipated or what I had ever dreamed or prayed or wanted in life. Like, it's so much more beautiful.
Wow. Well, I mean, so what I hear is you really were equipped for this journey. I mean, God equipped you with the tenacity, with the determination, had put those people in your path. So tell us what happened with the second surrogate and how that all evolved.
So with our second surrogate, so we were with one agency.
So you
And I
changed
remember
agencies.
yeah, we did. I remember going into that agency, my husband and I both, my husband's like, Ars, I don't think this is the agency, but I was so desperate. Like, he would have done anything for me. At that point, he was like, I want to do whatever it is to make her happy. Like, I
Right.
don't care what it takes. And I was like, but they're just very matter of fact. He's like, ours, this is an emotional thing. I get that there's agencies that are a matter of fact, but this is a really emotional thing, like,
Yeah.
that we're going through. And I don't feel that. It's basically like, here's your paperwork, sign
Mhm.
here.
Like a
And he's like,
factory or
yeah,
something.
he's like, that's what it felt like to me. And I'm like, no, no, no. But looking back at that, I would tell anyone this should not be like a business transaction. Yes, it is, but it's also an emotional transaction. So that agency that you choose to have that, help you find that perfect surrogate for you, it should not feel like a business transaction. It
Mm.
should feel like an emotional, like they're there to help you, they're there to hold your hand every step of the way, that if you forget something that you need, that they're right there and they're reminding you, hey, just a little nudge, we need to get this and this. So that's important also. But this second agency was the first one that I actually interviewed that I should have ended up going with. And it was just they were just different from the moment that I spoke to them to the moment that they did the matchmaking, their timing, everything. They were communicative. They were just like, hey, listen, we know we told you, in 4 weeks, but we're on week 3 and we still don't have much of anything. So we'll get back to you by next week or the week after and let you know timelines. They were just really good with timelines. And just they said, listen, it's going to take 8 weeks. I'm telling you, I think within 8 weeks, they had somebody already. So with that, they found us on the first match. They found our surrogate, Amanda. And she was and still is, I love her to death, and her family. They're amazing people. She's amazing. She was amazing. From the time that I met her, I knew automatically from the moment that we were on Zoom with one another. Um, and I saw her face and her smile. I was like, this is her. This is it. She's the one. And then I met her husband, and he was just so kind and like just there to support her, whatever she wants, like whatever's going to make her happy. And then her son, and she was just an amazing woman. And she still is an amazing woman. I still talk to her.
Right.
So,
Do you
yeah.
want to mention the surrogacy agency that you worked with? Do you want to mention them?
I mean, I'm not getting anything from this but conceivabilities. They
Okay.
have been um they have been amazing to work with. And they're great. It's just from the when I went into the hospital to have my daughter, I didn't even think of anything. Everybody was there. From the paperwork to the nurses to the doctors, everything was done. And let's be honest, I'm not like Minnesota. I mean, I'm from Chicago. I lived in Chicago at the time I did my surrogacy. They have great doctors there, but something about Minnesota and their hospitals and their doctors, amazing.
Wow. Well, and I just think it's great. I mean, if this, to me, if the surrogacy agency really came through for you, I think it's wonderful to call that out because as you've experienced, they're not all the same and they're not
Mm-mm.
all giving excellence. And so I think that that's really important. So you've talked on social media about how people can be very judgmental about the decision to use a surrogate. What kind of judgment have you experienced or sensed from people?
Um, I mean, it was some of it was, oh, I wouldn't want to ruin my body either. I'm like, what is that? What does that even mean? You know? I
So
would,
they're
if I could,
assuming they're
yeah,
assuming that you wanted to preserve your physical form and were unwilling to carry a child, that they made those assumptions about you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they did that. They also assumed that you know, something is going on with her, something's just wrong with her. She just, mentally and physically can't do it. Well, physically I couldn't do it. It wasn't mentally, it was just physically.
Mm.
Um, oh, her husband is successful. They can do that. That's the easy way out. Well,
So it's like a
no.
convenience thing now.
Yeah, it's
So,
like convenience. It's just all these like I'm like whatever. And for me, I'm like I don't even care. A lot of the time, I block out that noise. Just don't come after my family or my loved ones. You could say what you want to say about me because I don't really care. You're not paying my bills or making me happy. And the ones that I love and care for know the truth, and that's all that matters.
but
Um,
has to, I mean, given all that you suffered through and how desperately you wanted to progress in a pregnancy, that had to be still very hurtful. I mean, for people to be making those kinds of judgments when you'd gone through so much, trying to carry and deliver a child.
you know what was more hurtful? More than that, I think it was after the fact that we got pregnant with our surrogate, and then people were saying that, and even like family members I don't talk to, is that even her child? Is that this or is that? And it's crazy because to me that was more hurtful
Yeah.
because now you're talking about my child, like
Mm.
my like at the time my unborn child. Or is she, it was just to me that was more hurtful than anything, than all the other stuff. Cause I'm like, whatever, they're just, they don't have anything else better to do. But to be negative,
So
right?
that
If you're,
idea that if you didn't carry the child and deliver the child, then that made you somehow less of a true mother, less of a genuine mother to your own child. That's incredibly painful as well. Yeah, I
it
can totally
is
see that.
because I'm like, first of all, there are mothers out there that we hear about in the news and see that are giving birth to their kids and aren't even taking care of them. You
Right.
know, it's just, it's sad, but it's the truth. So, I truly do believe women that go through IVF or even to the extent of surrogacy, too, to get to that point, you truly want these children in your lives. You're not doing
Absolutely.
this just to get, a prize and be like, here's your trophy. You're a mom now. No, it doesn't work that way. Like, as women that are going through IVF and then result to even surrogacy, because they can't even, let's say they can't carry for some reason, um they're they want these kids in their life. They want children.
Right. You're willing
They
to
we
sacrifice anything. You'll
yes, you're willing.
sacrifice your body, your money, your time, all of your energy, your hopes, your dreams. You're laying it all out on the table.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. And and people choose surrogacy for many different reasons. I had someone that I knew that had to choose surrogacy because she had to harvest her eggs because she had cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
another
like
big
you don't
reason.
even know that what people are going through and why they choose surrogacy. It's
Yeah.
not just for because they can, because it's convenience.
Right.
There's many other reasons that go along with that and why people, and the number one reason a lot of them choose it because of medically. It's like if I carry, I know I've known some women after going through, not personally, but I've heard like going through surrogacy because they physically can't. It's either they have a baby and have the chance of deaths by the
Right.
time they delivered. So it's like, okay, what's the point of having a baby and God forbid something like that happening and you're not even there to be able to mother this baby and to be a parent because and this baby grows up without their like there's so many different reasons. So I tell people stop judging. You
Yeah.
don't know the truth. You don't know what's going on in people's personal lives.
Right.
And unless they want to share that, just be there. Shut your mouth and just, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Right. So you went through a lot of loss to get to this beautiful then result of Valentina. Did you ever feel that you needed to take some intentional steps to heal from some of that loss? Like what, because it seems to me, and it was for me, like there was cumulative loss. And I was so determined in my path. But then once I achieved my dream, I realized I'm kind of a wreck. I'm a wreck. And so, and in fact, COVID happened and I had to really take some intentional steps to heal myself so I could be that kind of mother. What was your experience with that?
It was, I went to a therapist, I went to a professional,
Yeah,
and I had someone to talk to be able to unload these feelings and to be able to work through them and figure out like, what am I feeling? Is this normal? Is this natural? How can I work through these feelings so I, like you said, Sharif, to be the best mother that I could possibly, to be the best version of myself for me, so that can also be the so that can also translate into my children, my child, so she could see the best version of me.
right.
She could be, happy to be around me. She could be a happy little girl and to be running around. So it was a lot of it was it's not just me now. It's my child, right?
Right.
You feel
Yeah,
that way, right? You
yeah,
feel like,
absolutely.
okay, I need to get better because it's not just about me. And I can't just keep putting these feelings aside and thinking they're going to go away. So that's what I did. And I got back into working out again because for a while I didn't work out because I was so busy just being a mom and doing all this construction in my home and trying to build this home for our family and supporting my husband while he was launching his new business. And it was just so much going on in these last 4 years. I would say 3 years. My daughter's now 4, but when she turned about 2.5, I was like, it's time. I need to start like figuring out what's going to make me happy because I can't just keep putting my own happiness aside and my own needs aside and also all these other things that I went through with loss and just being like, oh, I'm going to put it away in a box. So then I started talking about it. And honestly, too, that's when I decided to launch this community. And there's still more to come. I haven't officially launched this community, but this is what's helped me was being able to express how I'm feeling through writing, through talking to through other women, through DMs and phone conversations, and then feeling like, oh, my story is helping you, but you're also helping me because I'm hearing you and I'm like, I know I'm not alone.
Yeah. You know, you've written about and talk about the impact that infertility and grief can have on a marriage and how you and your husband grieved differently. How did you navigate that? Um, because I know that can be, especially when you have child loss, that can be very divisive. How did you stay united through all of that, those ups and downs and all of that loss?
It's still very hard for me to talk about it. It's still like at a point now I can talk about it, but it still chokes me up when I talk about that loss. And my husband and I, we had to go to therapy because he didn't want to talk about it. And he didn't want to face it. He didn't want to see anything. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to deal with it. He didn't want anything. He's like, Ars, I don't want to talk about this. And I finally said to him, well, I need to talk about it. And
Yeah.
that's not fair. And we, went to therapy, and we've gone through therapy, and we still every now and then go, we're still actively in therapy, not just because of that, because sometimes we go even when things are great. Like, I don't, it's like people are like, oh, I'm going to get a trainer when I've gained 10 pounds. So the trainer could, I still go to a trainer to maintain and to still feel good and to push me to limits that I never thought that I could reach because I have goals. And it's the same thing I always feel with like marriage counseling. Even though when things are great, it's still kind of maintenance. Okay, you don't have to go every month or but every so often it's good to check in, and to be able to say, hey, we're not quite understanding how to get past this. So, how can we communicate with one another in a way where he can understand me and I can understand him, even though that's what we do for a living? We're both communicators.
Yeah.
And and it's helped. And he's gotten a lot better in understanding too, with, he always tells me, I've grown so much since I've met you, and I continue to grow and I continue to understand. I continue to explore things about myself because sometimes I don't like the way that I tell you I don't want to talk about this when I know it's important to you and I may not feel comfortable with this. So I think it's just communication. It's just talking about it. And the grief is still there. It still hurts. It's still like a sting that I feel like it's never going to go away, because now coming up April, that is when, I kind of go through this emotion. Like, I remember that date. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember. And this
Yeah.
is when I got the phone call and I couldn't be at the
Yeah.
hospital because it was COVID. So it's still there, but it's better because when I look at my daughter, I always say, thank you, God. And I always say that my son sent me her.
Right.
That was my gift
Yeah,
from
I just got
him.
chills from that. Yeah. And I think about the two children that I've lost, and it gives me a different appreciation for what the afterlife might be, because you have a village. You have a village waiting for you. Oh my goodness.
Like
Um,
a daycare.
you have a incredible, but I wanted to, you made, so, there've got to be some women who haven't yet found that person that they're looking for. And you gave some great advice on one of your recent posts. You said, choose a man who can stay steady. And you talk about emotional maturity. And I'm not sure that that's always on a woman's like must have checklist. We have, oh, they need to make this much, or they need to be this tall, or they need to look like this. But really talking about emotional maturity, I love that. What does that mean to you?
So my husband is 3 years younger than me, even though he looks 10 years older than me. He
Well,
says
you
that.
look amazing. So,
He goes, he's 3 years, but for the short period of time from like February until his birthday, May, he's like, oh, you are 4 years older than me. So
yeah.
I'm going to take that as long as I can. So I'm like, whatever. I don't care, Amir. Do whatever makes you happy, just do it. And so when I first met him, I knew, just coming from being married and going through that, as women, we mature faster.
Oh, yeah.
So he wasn't as mature as I was, but I saw what I saw in him. I didn't see in other men that at the time were just trying to date me, or I'd go out with at the time because a friend wanted me to set me up with this guy because he's successful and he owns this and he's got this. And they would be 10 years older than him at times. And I would look and I'd be like, oh my God, this man is so immature. So when I say emotional maturity, find someone that's working on their growth, that is constantly working on, you know, their self growth, their development. They want to be better, and look for these key words of, I want to be better. I have my goal at X, Y, and Z. I would like to have this, this, and this financially, but also emotionally, I want to be here, there, and there. And it's all different for women across the board. Like my husband always, and I'll give you just an example so it's not a blanketed statement. At by the time I'm 40, RC, I want to be able to have, all of my properties, paid off. I want to have all this I want us. When a man uses we and us, no matter if he's making the money, because I didn't work for 4 years, but my husband never made me feel like I wasn't doing anything. He'd always use the word we and us, or we're going to have this month, or we're doing this. And it's always a together. So he would also say, too, I'm going to go to this conference because such and such is going to help me, think about how I can grow my business or how I could take you on date nights and think of date nights and be a better way instead of just dinners. Just like little examples that to somebody wouldn't make a huge difference, but they did to me because that showed growth or how he takes charge and, hey, we're going on vacation and here are a few places. Is there something out? Is there somewhere else that you want to go? And I'd be like, no, it's fine. Well, why don't you tell me where you want and let me plan it all? So a man that's like planning and doing, and again, not just financially, but emotionally investing in you as a woman and making you feel as if you are up here along with him. Because right now, what's happening in social media is you're seeing all of these. I'm a stay at home mom, and my husband bought me this and did that. And you're seeing this surface level, but you're not really seeing the work that goes into it because you don't really know what their relationship is. You're just seeing what they can buy for you, what they can do for you. And there's so much pressure on men these days that they have to perform financially, which
Right.
at the end, I'm very old school too. Like my husband, no matter what I bring in, like I truly do believe that a man should take care of his household and his family. Bottom line. That's how I grew up, even though my mom's a professional and she works, but they work together. Even
Yeah.
my husband, he tells me, he goes, whatever you do, Ars, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. I'm going to support you in whatever you do. You don't need to, but I want you because I know this is what you want.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, you've talked about um, listening as a skill. Um, it sounds like you've also said partnership, true partnership, um, the ability to put effort into the relationship and valuing you and seeing you and having a level of accountability. I think those were all things that I think you
yeah.
mentioned in some of your writings.
Yeah, it's, listening again, what we did when we were in therapy, right? And being able to understand one another because we are both good communicators, but at the same time, sometimes it's not perfect every day. It's not
Right.
perfect all the time. Just like the other day, I wasn't listening because I didn't want to listen. In my head, I had a vision and that's what I wanted to go for. And finally, when I settled down and sat down, I was like, I'm sorry. I should have listened because you have mentioned this before. And it's just that easy. It's being able to listen. Your husband listening. He's accountable. He's never like, it was your fault. He'll come and say, I'm sorry. I did this, and this. I apologize. Let's let's talk through this and see where we can, let's move forward from here. Now,
Right.
even emotionally, we're going to be more, no offense, men, whoever, gentlemen that would be listening to this, no offense, but women are more mature than men. We mature faster.
I think they know. I think they know that. I hope. And if they can't admit that, ladies, then that might be a part of that emotional maturity.
Exactly. So when your man tells you you are more emotionally intelligent than him or you are more mature than him, that's your man. Because my husband tells me that, he does. He goes, my wife's more my wife's more emotionally intelligent than I am. My wife's more mature than I am. Like
Yeah.
I know, I'm still a kid at heart. So when a man could just say, I'm sorry, what can we do today? Plan date nights, listen. make you feel supported, make you feel heard, make you feel like you are the number one priority, planning date nights, even if it's just for a walk, because I know not every couple can go on date nights every week because of the kids and the logistics, but even like something like a little walk, or when the kids go to sleep, just spending that hour with you and just making sure it's all about you and him. I mean, that's really, really important in a partner.
I agree. And you alluded to this earlier, but I wanted to come back to it. You talked about your culture and how there wasn't this wasn't these weren't topics that we talked about, that infertility and surrogacy. Can you just say a little bit more about that? I mean, you have a very exotic look, but I don't know that if people could say, well, I know exactly, where Arsiak is from, or, I think different cultures have their own traditions and beliefs and stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I have two cultures mixed together. So my mom is Palestinian and my dad is Armenian. My dad was born and raised in Amman, Jordan. My mom was born and raised in, parts of Palestine and Gaza. But my mom had come over here in 1963 when the war broke out because the American Red Cross was trying to get the Christians out. So a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of Palestinian Christians. We are about 15% of the makeup of Palestinians. And so still at the end of the day, culture is culture, right? We still have very similar things, family values, women, get married. Like my mom and dad got married. My mom was 18. My dad was 5 years older than her. So he was 23 when they got married. Ironically, their marriage was not arranged. My dad came to my grandparents' house. He saw my mom. He fell in love with her. My mom actually really liked him.
Chose him,
And
yeah.
yeah, she
Well, that's
wanted to
great.
be with him. So they've been together now. This year, they're going to be celebrating their 50-year anniversary. And I call them Frick and Frack because they're hilarious, those two. One day they're fighting, the next day they love each other, and you can't say anything about one or the other because they will defend each other. But they have a beautiful marriage. And um, when I first told my parents, well, first, my parents were shocked when I got divorced the first time. So that was a shocker. So I think because at that point, they're like, oh my God, what is this? Never went to the norm. So my parents, I kind of think were prepared a little bit because they knew I never like followed certain guidelines or certain cultures, or I would always like test the waters with them. And so they knew that I always marched to the beat of my own drum. But when I told them about my struggles, they were pretty supportive. And then ironically, like, certain people in our family were pretty supportive too. But I remember explaining to my cousin's grandfather that was 90 years old what surrogacy meant. So I was telling him in Arabic, I was like, you know how your wife used to bake bread? And he looked at me and he's like, yeah. I said, in the oven? I said, but this is a cake. So we put all the ingredients together and put it in another oven, and she's holding it for me for 9 months. And he just looked at me like, what
Blew
kind of
his
explanation?
mind.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just started laughing because he couldn't. That's basically, and I was explaining to him in my broken Arabic at the time, but it was funny because I made light of it. My family did, and they didn't take it so seriously. At the end of the day, they didn't care how a child came into this world with me. They just wanted me to have a baby. I was one of the first grandchildren, one of the oldest, and they just wanted a baby at that
Well, I'm
point. So
glad I'm glad that they were supportive of you. I think, a lot of women who are in some very traditional cultures don't have that kind of support. And so I love the fact that you're speaking out about that. What advice would you give to a woman who's considering using a surrogate?
just do your research, find someone that has gone through it, talk to them, and just make sure you do your research and just talk to your family, talk to, like again, I said, find a community that, women that have gone through it, like everyday women that are, that have gone, like myself, that have gone through it. Talk to us, let us know, ask questions, don't be afraid. There's no questions off limits. And that's what I tell, when I work with right now, like with conceivabilities, I've told them, I said, I will talk to intended parents. I'll talk to people that are thinking about going. I don't mind whatever you all need. I'm more than happy to have these conversations. And I actually had a conversation with a couple of months ago that were Middle Eastern Palestinian. Ironically, I don't even know how that happened, from New York, that were doing surrogacy. And she was on the phone with me for a good hour and a half. And I just said, whatever questions you have, just ask. And she said, how do we deal with our parents? How do we tell our family this? I said, and just set them down. I said, because at the end of the day, if let's say they're going to get upset coming from a cultural background and a family's not going to accept it, once they see that child, all of that's going to be thrown out the window.
Sure.
Everything's going to be thrown out the window. Nobody's going to care how that baby came into this world or how you got that baby. All they're going to care about is the baby, and good luck with them even thinking about you even exist, you know? Because that's going to be their grandchild, that's going to be their little niece, their nephew. It's that's just that's the beauty of bringing a life into this world. Nobody cares at the end.
Right. So it seems like finding people who have been through this before. I know you've offered yourself up as a resource. Where can people find you and, share some of that with me or with
I'm
us?
on LinkedIn.
I'll
I'm
share that.
on Instagram by my first name. I'm on Facebook by my first name. So yeah, you can find me. I'm working on my website. So my website should be going up in the next like 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm working on that because I had to clean it all up and get all of that. So it'll be first name basis, which I guess again, growing up, I did not like my name, but now I love it because
It's so unique.
it's so unique and it's first name basis.
Uh,
But I would be more than happy to, have a conversation with you, to, if you have questions, whatever it is. And if I don't know the answer to it, I could help you find out. And if I can't, I can guide you into the right, direction, and to who you could talk to. But yeah, I think that just finding your tribe and finding your people, and just,
yeah.
don't be afraid.
And find someone who's been through it. I mean, you and I are aligned in that way. We went through so many things, and now we're making it our mission to help other women and hopefully make their path a little bit more smooth, or at least more well informed. So I want to thank you for coming back on and sharing more details about this. And just wanted to share with people that. Again, Cherie's Choice is a place where we are providing education and information about all different kinds of paths to motherhood. So feel free to come and check out the resources we have there. And I just wanted to leave everyone with this. And Arsiak, you're a perfect example, as am I. You can fulfill your dream of motherhood with knowledge, determination, courage, and a village that loves you. Anything is possible. So
I
until
agree.
next time, anything is possible. We will speak again soon. Thanks so much.